My name is Tyler Hamilton. I'm 41 years old. I'm from Marblehead, Massachusetts, and I'm a former professional bike racer. I've ridden the Tour de France 8 times. I've won an Olympic gold medal, and at one point I was the #1 cyclist in the world. And I wrote this book in order to tell the truth about how it all happened, the truth about my career and my life. There's no easy way to say this, so let me just say it plain. During my career, I knowingly broke the rules. I used performance-enhancing drugs. I was caught and suspended back in 2004, and I tried to cover it up. I avoided the truth. And while there are reasons for what I did, reasons I hope you'll understand better after listening to this book, it doesn't excuse the fact that I did it, and there's no way on earth to undo it. The question most people ask me is, why tell your story now? There are 2 reasons. The first has to do with the federal investigation into my old team, the U.S. Postal Team and its owners, that started in the summer of 2010. That June, I received a subpoena to testify before a grand jury. I went to a courtroom in Los Angeles, raised my right hand, and swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Until that moment, I hadn't told a soul. My testimony went on for 6 hours. For me, it was like the Hoover Dam breaking. I opened up. I told the truth and nothing but the truth. And I felt a sense of relief I'd never felt before. All the secrets, all that weight I'd been carrying around for years suddenly lifted. And I saw that for me personally, the truth was the way forward. The second reason has to do with the sport I love. In order to truly reform, cycling needs to change, and change drastically starting from the top. I see young people entering the sport with hopes of making it. I believe that no one coming into the sport should be forced to face the difficult decisions I had to make. Before the sport can move forward, it has to face the truth. Now it's clear the truth is coming out. More former racers, guys like me, are stepping forward, breaking the silence, experiencing how good it feels to be honest and open. They're realizing it's okay to tell the truth, to lay out all the facts, and let people make up their own minds. Tyler Hamilton, Missoula, Montana, August 14th, 2012.
Random House Audio presents The Secret Race, inside the hidden world of the Tour de France. Doping, cover-ups, and winning at all costs. By Tyler Hamilton and Daniel Coyle. Read for you by Runnette. To my mom. T.H. To Jen, D.C. If you shut up the truth and bury it under the ground, it will but grow and gather to itself such explosive power that the day it bursts through, it will blow up everything in its way. Émile Zola. The story behind this book. Daniel Coyle. In 2004, I moved to Spain with my family to write a book about Lance Armstrong's attempt to win his 6th Tour de France. It was a fascinating project for many reasons, the biggest being the mystery glowing at its center. Who was Lance Armstrong, really? Was he a true and worthy champion, as many believed? Was he a doper and a cheat, as others insisted? Or did he live in the shadowy space in between? We rented an apartment in Armstrong's training base of Girona, a 10-minute walk from the fortress-like home Armstrong shared with his then-girlfriend Sheryl Crow. I lived 15 months on planet Lance, spending time with Armstrong's friends, teammates, doctors, coaches, lawyers, agents, mechanics, masseuses, rivals, detractors, and, of course, Armstrong himself. I liked Armstrong's abundant energy, his sharp sense of humor, and his leadership abilities. I didn't like his volatility, secrecy, or the sometimes bullying way he would treat teammates and friends. But then again, this wasn't tiddlywinks. It was the most physically and mentally demanding sport on the planet. I reported all sides of the story as thoroughly as I could, and then wrote Lance Armstrong's War, which several of Armstrong's teammates judged to be objective and fair. Armstrong went on record as saying he was okay with the book. In the months and years after the book was published, people often asked me if I thought Armstrong doped. I was 50-50 on the question, with the likelihood rising steadily as time passed. On one hand, you had the circumstantial evidence. Studies showed dope boosted performance 10 to 15% in a sport where races were often decided by a fraction of a percentage point. You had the fact that almost every other rider who stood on the Tour de France podium with Armstrong was eventually linked to doping, along with 5 of Armstrong's U.S. Postal Service teammates. You had Armstrong's longtime close association with Dr. Michele Ferrari, a.k.a. Dr. Evil, the mysterious Italian acknowledged as one of the sport's most infamous doctors. On the other hand, you had the fact that Armstrong had passed scores of drug tests with flying colors. You had the fact that he defended himself vigorously and had prevailed in several high-profile lawsuits. Plus, in the back of my mind, there was always the fallback reasoning. If it turned out that Armstrong was doping, then it was a level playing field, wasn't it? Whatever the truth, I was 100% sure that I was never going to write about doping and/or Armstrong again. To put it simply, doping was a bummer. Sure, it was fascinating in a cloak-and-dagger sort of way, but the deeper you went, the nastier and murkier it got. Stories of dangerously unqualified doctors, Machiavellian team directors, and desperately ambitious riders who suffered profound physical and psychological damage. It was dark stuff, made darker during my time in Girona by the deaths of 2 of the Armstrong era's brightest stars. Marco Pantani, depression, cocaine overdose, age 34, and Jose Maria Jimenez, depression, heart attack, age 32. And the suicide attempt of another star, 30-year-old Frank Vandenbroek. Surrounding it all, like a vault of hardened steel, was the omerta, the rule of silence that governs professional racers when it comes to doping. The omerta's strength was well established. In the sport's long history, no top-level rider had ever revealed all. Support riders and team personnel who spoke about doping were cast out of the brotherhood and treated as traitors. With so little reliable information, reporting on doping was an exercise in frustration, especially when it came to Armstrong, whose iconic status as a cancer-fighting citizen saint both drew scrutiny and sheltered him from it. When war was finished, I moved on to other projects, content to see Planet Lance receding in my rearview mirror. Then, in May 2010, everything changed. The U.S. government opened a grand jury investigation into Armstrong and his U.S. postal team. The lines of inquiry included fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, bribery of foreign officials, and witness intimidation. The investigation was led by federal prosecutor Doug Miller and investigator Jeff Nowitzki, who'd played major roles in the Barry Bonds Balco case. That summer they began to shine a bright spotlight into the darkest corners of Planet Lance. They subpoenaed witnesses, Armstrong teammates, staffers, and friends to testify before a Los Angeles grand jury. I began to receive calls. Sources told me that the investigation was big and getting bigger, that Nowitzki had uncovered eyewitness evidence that Armstrong had transported, used, and distributed controlled substances, and evidence that he may have had access to experimental blood replacement drugs. As Dr. Michael Ashenden, an Australian anti-doping specialist who had worked on several major doping investigations, told me, if Lance manages to get out of this one, he'll be bloody Houdini. As the investigation progressed, I began to feel the tug of unfinished business, the sense that this might be an opportunity to discover the real story of the Armstrong era. The problem was I couldn't report this story on my own. I needed a guide, someone who had lived in this world and was willing to break the omerta. There was really only one name to consider: Tyler Hamilton. Tyler Hamilton was no saint. He had been one of the world's top-ranked, best-known racers.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?